Georgia's independence 1991, the end of Soviet rule, the struggle for national identity. Imagine a nation that for decades was suffocated under the weight of a giant empire, where its culture, language, and identity were crushed by centralizing policies. On July 25, 1991, the small Caucasian Republic of Georgia declared its independence from the Soviet Union, marking the beginning of a national rebirth. Today, we explore how this historic moment was shaped by centuries of struggle, hope, and resistance. Soviet rule. Georgia, located in the heart of the Caucasus, is a land of stunning landscapes and a rich cultural heritage. However, its modern history has been marked by decades of oppression under Soviet rule. After the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, Georgia briefly attempted to establish an independent democratic republic, but was quickly annexed by the Soviet Union in 1921. During the years of Soviet rule, Georgia endured cultural, economic, and political persecution. The Georgian language was marginalized, local leaders were repressed, and the economy was integrated into the centralized Soviet system. Despite this, Georgian identity survived in traditions, family values, and cultural pride. The Georgian alphabet. Georgia has a unique alphabet, considered a cultural treasure by UNESCO. During the Soviet period, attempts were made to replace the Cyrillic alphabet, but Georgians resisted with determination. Wine culture. Georgia is considered the birthplace of viticulture, with ancient tradition of producing wine in amphorae called kaveri. This practice continued even under Soviet rule, symbolizing cultural resistance. The rise of the nationalist movement in the 1980s. The Soviet Union began to show signs of weakness. Under Mikhail Gorbachev's leadership, the policies of perestroika, restructuring, and glasnost transparency opened the way for nationalist movements in several Soviet republics. In Georgia, these changes inspired a resurgence of national pride. Leaders such as Zviad Gamsakhurdia, a pro-independence activist, managed to mobilize crowds in mass protests. They called for greater autonomy and, eventually, complete separation from the USSR. The protests escalated into clashes with Soviet authorities, culminating in dramatic events such as the Tbilisi massacre of 1989, when Soviet troops attacked unarmed protesters. The Tbilisi massacre. On April 9, 1989, Soviet soldiers fired poison gas and cassettes at peaceful protesters, killing 21 people. This event further galvanized the independence movement. The national flag, the Georgian flag, with its red and white stripes and the St. George's cross, became a powerful symbol of resistance against Soviet rule. The Declaration of Independence in July 25, 1991. Georgia officially declared its independence from the Soviet Union. It was a time of national celebration, but also of uncertainty. Zviad Gamsakhurdia, elected president, led the country through its first months of autonomy. He promised to restore Georgian sovereignty and protect its cultural identity. The Declaration of Independence was greeted with enthusiasm by the crowds, who filled the streets of Tbilisi with national flags and patriotic chants. However, the challenges were enormous. The economy was collapsing, infrastructure was deteriorating, and internal challenges threatened the country's stability. The national anthem, the Georgian anthem, Tavisa Pleba, freedom, was reintroduced after independence, symbolizing the struggle for freedom and sovereignty. The role of women. Georgian women played crucial roles in protests and cultural preservation during the Soviet period, often organizing networks of support and resistance. renewed Hopethi Declaration of Independence brought hope to millions of Georgians, but also laid the foundation for future challenges. Now, we are ready to explore the conflicts and hardships that arose after the breakup of the USSR, as well as the efforts to build a new nation. Conflicts and Kalinjecenturian conflicts. Georgia's independence was a historic milestone, but also the beginning of a new phase of struggle. Civil wars, ethnic conflicts, and economic challenges tested the country's resilience. In this act, we will explore how Georgia faced these adversities and fought to preserve its newfound sovereignty. Civil wars and political instability. Independence. Georgia was plunged into a series of internal conflicts. Zviad Gamsakhurdia, although initially hailed as a national hero, was criticized for his authoritarian and divisive policies. This led to a civil war in 1991 to 1992, culminating in his deposition and exile. The resulting power vacuum was filled by Edward Shevardnadze, a former USSR foreign minister who returned to Georgia to lead the country. Although he managed to temporarily stabilize the situation, corruption and political instability remained persistent problems. The Civil War. The Georgian Civil War was marked by brutal clashes between rival factions, including the use of tanks and artillery in Tbilisi. Shevardnadze, the diplomat, Edward Shevardnadze, was widely respected internationally for his role in Soviet diplomacy, but he faced criticism for his failure to resolve Georgia's internal problems, ethnic conflicts and breakaway regions. In addition to internal conflicts, Georgia faced tensions with breakaway regions such as Abkhazia and South Ossetia. These areas, backed by Russia, sought independence or union with Moscow, exacerbating divisions within the country. The Abkhaz War 1999–1993 was particularly devastating, resulting in thousands of deaths and hundreds of thousands of refugees. Georgia lost control of these regions, which remain disputed to this day. The Abkhazia question. Abkhazia declared its independence in 1999, but only a few countries, including Russia, recognize its sovereignty. Russia's role. Russia has played a controversial role, supporting the separatists while claiming to seek peace in the region. Economic and social challenges. The Georgian economy was in ruins after the dissolution of the USSR. Heavy industry, which depended on Soviet subsidies, collapsed, and traditional agriculture suffered from a lack of investment. In addition, endemic corruption undermined recovery efforts. However, the Georgian people have shown incredible resilience. Local communities have come together to rebuild infrastructure, and cultural initiatives have helped to strengthen the sense of national identity. National currency. Georgia introduced the lari as its national currency in 1995, replacing the Soviet ruble. Cultural tourism. Even in difficult times, Georgia has attracted visitors interested in its rich cultural heritage, including ancient churches and unique traditions. The quest for stability. Despite the challenges, Georgia has slowly begun to move toward stability. Now, we are ready to explore the efforts of modernization and international integration that have shaped the country's future. Georgia's reconstruction and future introduction to national revival. After years of conflict and hardship, Georgia has begun to rebuild its nation and look to the future. Political reforms, economic growth, and European aspirations have transformed the country into one of the most dynamic nations in the Caucasus. In this section, we will explore how Georgia overcame its turbulent past and emerged as a symbol of resilience and hope. The Rose Revolution 2003 in 2003, Georgia experienced another transformative moment: the Rose Revolution. Popular protests led by young activists toppled the corrupt government of Edward Shevardnadze, ushering in a new era of reform. Haile Saakashvili, a young lawyer and politician, took office and implemented a series of radical changes. He fought corruption, modernized public administration, and sought to bring Georgia closer to Europe and OTAN. The symbol of roses, the revolution got its name because protesters carried roses instead of weapons, symbolizing their peaceful struggle for change. Technological modernization. Saakashvili introduced digital public services, making Georgia one of the most technologically advanced nations in the region. International integration and European aspirations. Under Saakashvili, Georgia has pursued integration with the West. The country has formed strategic partnerships with the European Union and the United States, and has expressed its desire to join OTAN. While these aspirations have led to tensions with Russia, they have also strengthened Georgia's identity as a European nation. Tourism and foreign investment have begun to grow, boosting the economy. EU relations. Georgia signed an association agreement with the European Union in 2014, strengthening its ties with the bloc. Global culture. Georgian films have begun to gain international recognition, highlighting the country's rich cultural narrative. Continuing challenges and legacy. Georgia continues to face challenges, especially in relation to breakaway regions and relations with Russia. However, the resilient spirit of the Georgian people and their determination to build a better future are inspiring examples for the world. Georgia's story teaches us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, the fight for freedom and identity can prevail. May this story continue to inspire you to seek justice and dignity. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time.